Hello, everyone. My name is Matt Kunzler. I work with Henry Schein Dental. Thank you for watching my video today. I was asked to present on Conebeam technology, and I'm going to focus in on a few of our most popular CBCT machines. First, I'd like to give an introduction to who I am. Again, I work with Henry Schein Dental as a digital workflow specialist. 15 years in the dental industry, actually a little more than that now. 5 years of working as a service technician and then on to a service manager, and now over 10 years specializing in technology. I do have a working knowledge of CAD/CAM, digital impressions, Conebeam, and 3D printing and how they all work together. You'll see that later in the presentation. I want to tell you this is the only time you'll see any part of a PowerPoint that I'll be sharing. A little bit about me and my family. So here's the most recent picture of my family. Wanted to put this up here because I really want you to understand that dental technology is more than just machines, more than just an investment for your practice. It really does affect people, as you know. My people, specifically, my family, myself, my wife. I'm going to show some images later of how this technology has changed our life forever. A little bit more. We have 2 dogs. These are kind of older pictures, but I still think they're my favorite. They both love to cuddle and get in trouble now and again. All right, why now work from home? You can see the gray hair and you can see the red car. Once upon a time, I used to drive around about 50,000 miles a year, between 40 and 50,000 miles a year. In 15 years of traveling around, before that I traveled around for work as well. This is the one accident, and finally I got so wrapped up in what I was doing, I wasn't paying attention to driving, and I knew something had to change. So this is why I work from home now. And what I promised not to do. Okay, so I love this slide. You have the Cookie Monster and his girlfriend, and she brought him crackers, even though he's the Cookie Monster. So what this means to me is really trying to make the rest of this presentation relevant to you. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time clicking around and going through the software in the sense of planning something. In some cases, I will a little bit, but I do want to show you the capabilities of the different softwares that go with these machines. So with that being said, I want to move into now a new format for presentation. And this is more interactive. This is the type of presentation I give day to day, discussing all the categories of which I cover, being digital impressions and all of the devices that we can help integrate into a practice, CAD/CAM systems, all types, and then CBCT, and we'll go in and out of some of these manufacturers to discuss high points and some of the bells and whistles to them, and then also 3D print and all of our different options there. So the reason I go into all those, I know this is mainly about Conebeam, but all of these things work together. And so when you start thinking about your practice and you make the decision that I want to buy a Conebeam and I want to invest in that and I want to make sure I get the right one. Well, to make sure you get the right one, it's really a much broader picture into your practice. A lot of the Conebeams on the market, they're very good. As we start diving into the ones that we're going to highlight today, that being Planmeca, the KaVo OP3D, the Sirona product, and the ACTEON product. Now, there's all sorts of different options within all of these different manufacturers. So just keep in mind, there are tons and tons and tons of options. And really, for the most part, they really all give an amazing image. Which then brings into question, well, how do you make this decision? I mean, if this is if this is something that I'm going to invest in and it's going to be a big investment, how do I pick the right one? Well, I like to say that a lot of times it revolves around your practice management software. Not all the time, but there's a good case to be made that if you have Dentrix, you really could actually choose many different products because we have a thing called Smart Image. Now, Smart Image, what it will do is link in your either Planmeca Romexis, that's their imaging software, or Dentsply Sirona Sedexis. There are others working on the bridges, but basically they connect right in. So just like this this integration with Dexis, it would feel very, very similar by way of the other products as well. But integration into Dentrix is very, very important, or your practice management software. So that's one thing to consider. The other thing is, again, is we want to be able to hop around and, so the Dexis product is made by KaVo. And so we are going to, you would have, if you did have a Conebeam x-ray of your patient, it would show up in the chart along with all the other images. In this case, we just have the extraoral images for her ortho case. So that's one thing to consider is what's my practice management software and how does it integrate and is that going to be convenient for me? The other things that we would discuss are, okay, so now let's say we've narrowed it down to one of our products, and because we have Dexis, let's talk about KaVo. So I'm going to go into KaVo and I want to take a look at their OP3D machine. Now, the OP3D machine is a very useful machine to have around it, all the different fields of view. We go from 5 by 5 centimeters, 6 by 9 centimeters, 9 by 11 centimeters, and 9 by 14 centimeters. This is now your different options as far as field of view, depending on what you're going to do: implantology, endodontics, impactions, TMJ, airway, trauma, periodontics. So depending on what you want out of your machine, you're going to have to choose the appropriate field of view. And again, the OP3D is going to go all the way up to a 9 by 14, which is useful for airway. However, if we really wanted to get into more orthodontic procedures and some others, you'd have to go into a bigger field of view. And that's where KaVo would have an ICAT image for you. We could step into the ICAT product. Okay, a little bit more about the OP3D. Really, the GUI interface is on the computer, very easy to use. Variety of resolutions. Now, this conversation actually could be for all of these products. So let's talk about some of the latest buzzwords within CBCT. Things like ultra low dose. A lot of these products will advertise that they have low dose or ultra low dose technology. Now, what does that mean? Ultra low dose technology, what that means is when you are taking the x-ray, you're using less kV, kilovolts, milliamps to fire the x-ray through the patient into the receptor of the sensor. And so what we want is as little as possible, the old Allura principle. And so we want to make sure that we're still getting a good image on the other side. And that's where digital technology struggled is, yes, we could bump down the power of the x-ray, but then your resolution of the images start to suffer. And so the better the sensor on these machines, so the receiving end of the x-ray, the lower the dose you can go. But as we start talking about endodontics, you wouldn't necessarily want to take the x-ray on ultra low dose because we want to see all those canals through the teeth. So we need an ultra high resolution to do so. As far as if we're doing just an initial airway study, then we would probably want to do those on an ultra low dose just to save the radiation to the patient. So ultra low dose, a lot of the machines have it. A lot of them will have a very good sharp resolution even with ultra low dose. But that's where we can start to see some of the product differences with the machines. If you send enough X-ray through the patient, then most of them are going to have a very, very good quality image. Things like orthodontics, and so I think what we should do at this point is jump into some of the software rather than hit the bullet points on the machines. So we started talking about KaVo Cur. Let's go into the KaVo Cur software. So remember what I was saying earlier. I think that when you go to choose which system you want, ultimately it really does. It's much more than just. It is much more than which machine you get, but how it interacts with your practice. So this is DTX Studio. You can see here I have a CBCT image ready to go. So we're going to come up here and click on Diagnose. And let me bring this over. There we go. Okay, so here's our image. Okay, came on the other screen. Sorry about that. Okay, so this is the look and feel of DTX Studio. DTX Studio is the latest planning software that KaVo Cur has come up with. And what they're creating within the DTX Studio at that home screen, again, is going to be able to have your patients, your patients list connected to Dentrix, of course. It is going to have 2D images, 3D images. You're going to be able to have your intraoral scans all in one place within DTX Studio. Right here, we're just focusing on the Conebeam. This is an image that we have, maybe some impacted molars. What's really neat about this software, and it's similar to some of the others, but as I come over to this image, all I have to do is click on the space bar. And if I wanted to really jump in and look at that tooth number 17, the software is smart enough that it realizes that that is tooth number 17. It's pretty impressive. But it also brings me a snapshot of all the different views to kind of take a look at that image. And then, of course, I can just go through. You can see all these sliders are going to give me what I'm looking at on that screen. You can see that I'm going through the top to the bottom. Again, if I wanted to take a look at, if I want to take a look up here, able to, let me turn that back on. Let's go back to tooth number. So this area, for some reason it's not wanting to jump, so give me 1 second. There we go. Okay, sorry about that. User error. And that happens. So we'll see if my marketing department cuts that out or if I can just show you that mistakes happen and it's not that big of a deal when we just got to keep clicking a little bit. But again, we can jump around from site to site and take a look. Okay, so same thing. Pretty much anywhere. All you have to do is click and it'll bring you up into whatever area of interest you're looking at. So that's some of the look and feel of the of this software. You can see as we come up, we're in our diagnose section. So we can come through all sorts of different tools here. We can come into our measuring tools. Again, a lot of these cone beams are going to have many of the same characteristics and options to do. In this case, we'll go into measurement tool. Actually, why don't we do this? Let me come into this area. And then I'll show you how to do the distance tool. So if we wanted to measure, for example, from here to here, if you were doing a root canal, we would be able to take a measurement And you can do multiple points throughout as well. Okay, so that's a little bit about the software. We can blow up any one of these individual screens at a time. And depending on what we're doing, that could be helpful. Also, we have the 3D inspection mode, 3D panoramic. So you can see there's all sorts of different views depending on what exactly it is you're going to be doing. The other thing that we have here is, I don't think that this is going to, yeah, we'd have to define the TMJ area. The image really isn't quite big enough for that. So, but we could define a TMJ area and really zone in on that as well. If the image were large enough, we could also extract a cephalometric image for orthodontics, for doing your mapping and etc. But you don't necessarily need a Ceph to be able to do orthodontics and have a Ceph image. All right, so that's a little bit about DTX Studio. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I'd like to hit on. Why don't we jump back to our presentation and let's talk now a little bit about Planmeca. Okay. So Planmeca has many different options as well. So as we come in here, the one that we're going to focus in on today is the VISO. Also, I'm going to show you some images of my family in the Planmeca software. But here is the VISO family. So we have a 20 by 10 or we have a full 19 by 30 option in the VISO. So more for that full skull. Here are some of the things that Planmeca's options. So we have a huge volume size for starters. The Calm software. So if you haven't heard of Calm, I don't remember off the top of my head what it stands for, but basically what it does is when you have your patient in the machine ready for the carousel to go around and take the image, what can happen sometimes is the patient can move. And so there's all different philosophies. iCap will tell you need to sit down, and that works very well. Most of the other, in fact, all the other machines are stand up, but you have to be able to take that image quickly, and it needs to be done in a manner where the patient is as still as possible. So that's where this ultra low dose also comes into play, because you're taking these images in just a few seconds versus 25 or 30 seconds, which would be a high resolution scan. So back to my point about Calm, if the patient is moving, then the software will compensate for that, and you won't have any degradation in the image because of Calm software. So that is a really remarkable accomplishment for Planmeca. Again, of course, we have our ultra low dose imaging, endodontic mode, and many other. You can enter face photos, et cetera, et cetera. There's so much to do with these machines. Now what I'd like to do is jump into their software. So remember, we can access this, the images, and we can access the database through Dentrix as well for Planmeca's Romexis. And it's loading, so give me 1 second. Okay, so they want to keep opening on my other screen, so let me pull that over. Okay, so here we are. Here's our patient database. They just went through a very large upgrade, going from version 5 to version 6 of their Romexis software. Has a whole new look and feel, which I really like. I want to bring you into, let's go into Tanner's image. So the reason I'm going to bring up my son Tanner's image is I told you a little bit earlier about how CBCT and dental technology is personal to me and my family, and this is why. So let's go ahead and open this up. I'm going to turn this off for the moment. I'm going to not see that. Let me just change this view here. So you can see there are multiple tools on the side here as we want to change how we're looking at this view. I'm not... hopefully you're gathering from my demo here that There are lots of softwares, and you really need to learn it. It's one of those things that it's kind of difficult to jump around through all these different softwares and remember. Oh, here we are. Gosh darn it. See, I knew it was somewhere. Okay, there we go. Okay, so here's the image that I wanted to show you, and this is of my son, and you have all these different shading tools, so you can see different views. So this is of my son. I'm actually going to delete this out and remark it later. This is my son, and we can go all the way down to even a soft tissue view. And this is my son when he was about 10 years old. He might have been 10, he might have been 9 at this point. However, you know, the side effects of airway disorders show themselves in many different ways. I have 2 boys. They both had different symptoms. This particular child here, Tanner, his would show up in his stamina. He always slept pretty good, but the stamina for Tanner was a little difficult. And so I'd be on the sideline of the game, and he'd want to come out after 1 quarter. And I would be sitting there yelling and screaming and saying, "What are you doing? You need to get back in there." I know, Father of the Year. That's pretty much how that went. But you can see here, I can go through a variety of different slides, just like we did in the KaVo Curve software. Again, TMJ, surface, job motion. But as I come back to my Explorer, I can also come in and mark the airway. Okay, so it's a very simple tool to mark the airway. We just want to, first of all, bring it into focus. And let me do this a different way here. Let me bring this screen up. Let me undo that. And let's see here. There we go. All right, that's what I was looking for. Now we want to come in and mark the airway. Okay, so just like that, a few clicks, and we're able to come in and oh, I see what happened. I apologize for all this. I kept clicking around, not knowing what I was doing. Let's do this one more time. That's what happens with multiple screens. Okay, sometimes you're not looking at the right one and looking for the airway tool. All right, there we go. So there we go. So as you can see, now we have a marked airway, and this was the reason we came to find this was a dentist that was really more of a mentor to me for so many years, had just gotten back from an airway course, and was very excited about what he had learned. And what he had learned at the course was that, you know, you can treat airway problems in dentistry. Again, this is a long time ago. This is maybe 8+ years ago that we started this process of trying to help our children get past the symptoms that they were suffering from. My other son, Colin, was very much had problems sleeping. Now, going through ortho, we've changed so much about all of their lives. I could go into it more, but for the sake of this, I'll stop here. But as we go to choose which size of CBCT to choose, this is one of those things that you really need to take into consideration. What do you want to do with it? Okay, one last case inside of Romexis. I'm going to bring up my wife's case. And only because it's the most complete. And as this comes up, you're going to see all the different things you can do within Planmeca Romexis' software. Just let it load. Basically, all of the things that we've talked about, it's great for implantology and surgical guides. You can see here is basically the nuts and bolts of it. We can pair a surface scan with this CBCT image, design a surgical guide for the area of interest, mark the nerve to make sure when we place the implant that it's not hitting the nerve, and we can also, you know, take an image of the airway. So I don't really want to go into too much about how to do all these things, especially in each and every software. I think I'd bore you to death. Just know that this is the types of technologies that we're dealing with when it comes to Conebeam technology. Again, that list, just to reiterate again, just really quick, the hot topics are going to be implants, planning surgical guide, planning the case and designing the surgical guide, orthodontics, the planning and then extracting a pseudoceph, so you don't actually need a cephalometric anymore, airway, endo, and then an ultra low dose. Those are the things that come to my mind when I think about Conebeam technology. Okay, so there's Planmeca Romexis. Now we should go into, why don't we dive into Sirona's product? This is a brand new product, just launched this year. ACTEON is the name of it, and it also is their very large field of view. So we can go 17 by 13. What's different about Axios than their original Galileos is they went to this flat panel receiver, the sensor, versus what they used to have, which was an image intensifying unit. So basically it took out, used to look like a big tube TV on the end of the Conebeam. And so it took up a lot of space. When you would put one of these into practice, you'd have to find an area with a very large space, which is problematic in some areas. And so this is a very nice upgrade. You can see how beautiful the interface is, how beautiful the machine is. Again, it's stand up. The idea being that you can lock the patient in place. Also, that you would be able to, I thought I had a picture, I guess I don't, of the patient in a wheelchair being wheeled up to the x-ray. There are fields of view for this. Again, we got 5 by 5.5, 8 by 8, 11 by 10, or the full 17 by 13. Now, you don't actually choose a machine, a VISO machine that only takes a 5 by 5.5 centimeter volume. What you do is you buy the machine and then you can narrow down your area of where you want to capture. So if I'm doing an endo case, then I could simply just do a 5 by 5.5. You can see that it says here, endodontics. Yeah, I was right. Or single implants, but still I think most clinicians like to have a little more area to look at. Capturing lower jaw, again, multiple implants, but most often than not, you'll be taking this volume here, this 11 by 10, unless you're looking to go into TMJ, orthodontics, orthodontic surgery, or upper airway segmentation. So that's when you would take that large field of view. All the other times you could narrow that down. Okay, let's go ahead and open up Sidexis. I like this software an awful lot also. One other thing to keep in mind as you decide which system it is that suits you best is the resources that the software requires. In some cases, when going to a Conebeam, you may also have to upgrade your computers, at least the computers that you want to do planning on. Now, usually there's a viewer that you can use, but Sidexis 4 and Planmeca Romexis, these two imaging softwares, require a lot of resources. So you really need to have very good computers with very good graphic cards if you plan on going this route. You can see here is images that I have for this patient. So what I really like about Sidexis is just the feel of it. So here is, again, we have that idea of having kind of everything in one. We have our Conebeams, we have our two-dimensionals. Again, obviously we can do airway with it. Intraoral cameras, integration with your CEREC if you have a CEREC. Again, more intraoral photographs, panos, Conebeams. So what's really fun about this software is just kind of like this journey through time as the patient comes in and has come in. So I really love the software, really neat feel, but again, remember this software does require some good computers. Now, let's go back into their latest machine, and let's register and timeline this machine. I was playing around with the other day in CCAT Air. Why don't we jump into this image here? And that way you can see kind of the field of view. Hopefully this video is coming across with the intention of what I'm intending here. Just being able, it's not just the machine, it's not just the image quality. Those are important components, but the software is super important. And again, integration is very important to your practice management software. Okay, so you'll see again, just like all the other softwares, if I come in here and click around, I'm able to go in and out of the face here. Once I'm in that spot that I like, if I'm looking for, like, for example, if I'm trying to find an area of interest, let's say I want to go take a look at possibly that root canal. So why don't I move my way over there and then move my way down. It looks like I went a little too far, so we can start to, there we go, that's better. And if we wanted to, again, come into this window, we can maximize this window. We can really dive down through and see how that root canal went. Okay, so this is the idea of the CBCT and the software, just kind of navigating through it. With Planmeca software, I think you probably noticed it was kind of left to right at the top. If we jump back into that, actually, let me just do a little compare and contrast. I was kind of 3D. We have my Explorer, Panoramic, and I'm working through here. Over with Sodexis, it's in my toolbox. So I'll open this up and I can go to either my implant planning software, or I can go into my CCAT suites, which are Endo, Air, oh, there we go, CCAT Air, CCAT Endo, or CCAT Function. Now, what's neat about Endo is if you have the Dentsply Sirona sensors, the Schick sensors, you can also take images directly in here, go over your area of interest, and as you take your x-rays and you do them through your process, it'll overlay so that you can see the progress that you're making. If you'd like to see what that looks like, please just, let's set up a time and I can walk you through that a little bit further. But for the sake of today, this was the idea, was just to kind of get through and so you can see. Again, with that idea of working left to right, we have patients, exposures, examination. Right now we're in plan and treat. If you did in fact need an airway appliance, we could go to output and send this to your lab and then get the appliance made. Okay, we'll come back to patient here. All right, I think we're getting down to our final one here. Let's talk about, nope, that's the wrong slide here. Let's talk about ACTEON and their prime machines. This is a new machine. It bolts to the wall. I think that's pretty neat. Again, the idea of saving space. We can dive right in here. Again, what's one of the things is it only requires about 38 inches wide, 44 inches off the wall. So it's very, very friendly as far as where it's going to go in the practice. Okay, field of view, 12 by 10. Again, this is one of those things that once you determine which machine, you got to make sure you have the field of view that you want. So this is now a 12 by 10, 9 by 8, 5 by 8, 5 by 5. Those are the fit. Again, you'd purchase it with a 12 by 10, and then you could crop it down to whatever you wanted. Let's see. Let's go into the software. One second. This is, I'm not even really sure. There we go. Let's open this up. One thing to talk about also, again, the images themselves, they're all very good. The integration is important. Making sure you plan for it properly is important. Let me bring this over. And, some of the tools, I mean, you're going to see a lot of consistencies. You can mark the nerve. You can plan the implant. As I come in and see on this one, I just click the site and then it pops up over here. So if I come and click on the implant itself, then the implant comes into my focus. Let's do that a little better. There we go. And you can see it says nerve collision. So after you mark the nerve, we can come in and we can try and move that so that it's no longer in the danger zone. We now have our buffer zone, safety zone. As far as angling the implant, a lot of these have similar features as to, this lets us click away. But yeah, I think hopefully from this video you're catching the idea that you have lots of options. They're all pretty darn good, but I really highly recommend looking outside of just what exactly it is you're going to be doing today, but down the road, going back to that idea of maybe you're not doing airway today, but you might be in the future. Let's see here. I think hopefully that's given you a pretty good overview of the products that we wanted to talk about today. Hopefully it gave you an idea of what we as the salesmen and the people doing your demonstrations are trying to help you understand are the different options and really pick out the correct one for you. So I've told you a little bit about how Conebeam has changed my life, and I'm going to be, I really believe that. Dental technology has changed my life and the lives of my family. That's not an understatement. And I am going to be eternally grateful to the dentist that once took that airway study course because that's how it all started, the continuing education. So the least I can do is try and do my best at presenting to you your options and helping you pick the right machine. Dental technology, again, has absolutely changed my life forever. If you'd like to know or you'd like to explore how it can change your life, please reach out to me directly. My contact information should be coming up here shortly. Or reach out to your local Henry Schein representative, and they'll get you in contact with some of the machine manufacturers if you'd rather go that way. But if you want an overview of all of it, all at the same time, I'd be happy to do the same thing, jump in and out of all individual products, and let's find the right one for you. Thank you so much for your time. I hope you found this informative. I hope to hear from you soon.